Welcome back, viewers! Welcome to Dungeon Port Studios. I am Caprinigh, and we are continuing playthrough of C14 Dating, and we're gonna do the schedule now. Ooh, it pops up, I guess, what our stats are right here every time we go over this. Okay, this will be interesting. So, study will increase our diligence and stress. Browse internet will reduce stress, which let's not worry about that right now. Inquire will raise our rationale and stress. Game empathy and stress. What kind of game will we be playing if it's gonna increase our stress? And catch will increase culture and stress. I mean, I'm not a big fan of any sort of game where people are throwing balls, so that would definitely increase stress for me. Though I think most people wouldn't really. It's more meant to be fun and not increase stress. Socialize increases culture and empathy and stress. Okay, I don't know how fast stress will build up, so. Oh, dance! Oh, that's cool. And, oh wait. Let's check our email. Explore museum. Oh, that would be cool. And let's do dance. And I guess this all looks good, right? Hopefully this is all good, and we are gonna play. Hey, let me save real quick in case something happens. Okay. Like Sherry said, there was another lecture in the morning, complete with a whiteboard and Augustine demonstrating how to use a trowel. It was all in French, and Sherry was kind enough to translate some key phrases or remind me that I covered this with her before the trip. Oh, good. The students were divided, with one half, me included, to head for the cave, while the other group would stay behind for lab work. The walk to the cave was roughly 10 minutes, passing through a narrow path in the sloped woods. The trickier sections had cement stairs installed, along with handles to prevent slipping. When we reached an ordinary-looking shed, Augustine pulled out his keys. I realized this was the cave entrance, or at least the artificial part of it. Once you're inside, please spread out so I can explain how to wet screen. He repeated instructions in French as we filed through one by one. There was a raised counter in the middle with plastic containers suspended on wooden supports. So this is where the wet screening takes place. Looks like it can only fit 2 people at a time. I wonder how often they'll be used. Augustine demonstrated by lowering an empty metal sieve into a plastic container. Grabbing a hose, he mimed washing the screen and rooting through pretend dirt. As much as I tried to pay attention, the language barrier tested my focus and my eyes started to wander. Check out the posters, look down, or stay focused. Oh. We gotta stay focused. I did come here to learn, didn't I? French or not, I should show I'm serious about this. He's mentioning photographs a lot. Is someone coming to take pictures? Everyone started to line up after Augustine gestured to each item, which ranged from stacks of buckets to plastic containers full of trowels and brushes. I followed and carried everything in my own bucket, including a sheet of paper encased in a plastic bag. Don't want the paper to get wet. The real entrance to the cave opened, leading to a narrow industrial catwalk suspended over the abyss. Oh my goodness, that looks so cool, doesn't it? Ah! Once I walked through, the temperature dropped to a cool chill and I zipped up my hoodie. Augustine directed students to various locations while Sherry carefully slipped by and I followed. The cave opened up farther in with numerous stalactites and stalagmites everywhere. The catwalk railing disappeared where the ladders connected or when it branched off into other segments of the cave. Sherry, where will I dig? Sherry leaned over the railing and pointed to one of the deeper parts. You'll be digging here. It's a 125,000-year-old lair. The very same one where they discovered the Neanderthal mandible. What? I'll be digging in such an important place already? Despite my nerves, I felt giddy inside. Ooh. Sherry climbed down the ladder and I trailed behind her. At the bottom of the ladder was another catwalk positioned exactly in the middle. Now that my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed there were strings and cords hung everywhere in a specific pattern with notes nailed into the soil. Sherry brought me to the end of the catwalk, where there was yet another ladder, but this time much shorter. You'll be digging on the right side here. Ooh, is anyone gonna join us? Here was a rather cozy looking pit, a perfectly dug out square. 2 to 3 people could probably move around freely in space. It was almost right under the main catwalk higher up too. This is your Car D32? Car D32? Car means square. Everything is separated into a grid system, starting from the entrance of the cave to uppermost left to right. It goes A1, B1, and so forth. That makes sense. Explains all the lines dangling from the ceiling, too. They're for measuring. Correct. Shall we take a closer look? The photographs from this row should be done already. I'll be right back. You can go ahead and set your items down. She retreated while I placed the bucket next to the shorter ladder. I descended and grabbed the tools before I hopped off the last step. I wonder when we're gonna meet boys. Cause that's, the whole point of a dating game. Or a girl, if they will allow it. As far as I know, there are boys. The layer I would be working on was mostly dirt with the odd large rock sticking out here and there. It would be easy to dig. By the time Sherry returned, I already had my knee pads out and the piece of paper next to me. Here we are, a picture of your square. She handed it to me. I could tell it was printed off in the highest resolution possible, fully inked and glossy. What do we use this photograph for? First things first, we distinguish each layer and outline it on the photograph. Once Augustine or myself check it over, you can go ahead and start excavating. This picture is an irreplaceable reference, and you'll find yourself relying on it often. Please don't lose it or get it tarnished. Sadly, Augustine is short-staffed at the moment. I'll be helping the other students since most are new to this too. Is there anything you'd like to go over? Type of excavation! I've always heard about horizontal digging, but vertical? It was Augustine's idea. Stratigraphy. Stratigraphy. The study of rock layers is extremely important. This excavation method ensures each layer is examined in great detail. It's also easier to compare the strata when you can view it as a whole. If you want to know about the cave in general or its stratigraphical approaches, you can ask Hendrik when he arrives. He's a resident geologist and Augustine's nephew. Is he going to be dateable? Details regarding the document paper. What is this? I quickly glanced at the first word at the top. Fiche thing, exactly. I know we've gone over how it's used to record finds, but I flipped it open, seeing a coordinate grid with a 0 in the lower left corner and ending in 100 for both x and y axis. It looks complicated. That a little bit of math will come into play. You'll be measuring where you find the remains using both x and y along with the altitude z. X runs parallel to the entrance while y goes from front to back. Every section is divided into 100 by 100 square centimeters. Yes, forgot that we'll be using the metric system. My mind's going to have fun adjusting to it. The grid helps, and you record what you find under this list labeled Nature. Each fiche or document has its own number already written, along with the year. You fill out the car number, the layer name, and today's date. Oh, and write down the photo's number on it so there's no mix-ups. Did you get all of that? That is a lot to take in, but I think I grasped it. It's easier once you actually start, and I'll be there to help. Remember, one fiche per layer. What to do once you find an artifact or bone? So what do I do once I find a Neanderthal tooth? First, don't pluck it out like some amateur archaeologist. You'll lose the context. Measure it before you remove it, number it, and carefully wrap it in tinfoil. There will be a plastic bag you can use to store all of the findings. How do you number the findings? Just by the order you find it in. 1, 2, or 3. Jot it down on a piece of paper and stick it in the tinfoil as well so it won't get lost. Once you finish excavating the entire layer, seal everything found into a plastic bag along with the completed fiche. Believe me, you'll feel relieved to finally finish a layer. Handling each layer. When I excavate vertically, I just focus on one layer at a time, right? That's the ideal approach. However, layers aren't perfect straight lines like in textbook diagrams. They widen and narrow, slant, or disappear completely. If you come to a situation where you have to dig through more than one layer, keep separate fiches in buckets. Never mix the contents. Because once you fill up a bucket, you'll be wet screening the material. Anything you overlooked the first time, such as a bone, will then be deposited in a cup marked with that layer name. What happens if you find something extremely important, like an entire Neanderthal skull? I admit the image of suddenly pulling a complete skull of the screening area is rather comical. Then you better hope Augustine doesn't see it. You never want to find flint or burnt bone in your Tommy Sage, which is French for screening. Keep a careful eye out, and if you find something you're unsure of, ask me or a fellow archaeologist. And I think I got it! Okay. I'm good, Sherry. Wonderful. I'll give you some time to get familiar with your square. If you're struggling, remember you can adjust the heat lamps. Also, the photograph's contrasts have been altered to help distinguish the sedimentary layers easily. I'll be back shortly. I glanced down at the photograph before comparing it to the vertical wall in front of me. No matter how closely I looked, everything was brown, 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 and more brown. How am I supposed to tell the difference of this brown layer from that brown layer? Not deterred, I picked up a pencil and began marking the more distinct sediments. And eventually it became less solid brown, and I could see reds and faint yellows within the soil. I was so focused I barely registered that I was not alone anymore. Ooh, this guy! Oh, he looks... What is in his... That's a weird looking hairpin? Oh wait, is that just hearing aid thing? Or something? A tall student stood by the square next to mine, already engaged in identifying the sediments. I paid him no heed until I became stumped on whether I was looking at one layer or two. Quietly peering at his profile, he seemed rather familiar with the system. I guess it wouldn't hurt to ask him, or at least try to communicate. Can I get your opinion on something? Quiet student. Hello? Bonjour? Still no reaction. I reached out and gave him a gentle tap on the shoulder. Whoa! The touch jolted him so abruptly that I retracted my hand. He whirled around and glared at me. I guess he was really into whatever he was doing. Oui, avez-vous besoin de quelque chose? I don't know. I can't really remember any of the French I took in high school except for how to pronounce some things. I used to be able to say that I liked horseback riding, but I don't think I can remember that word anymore. Sorry, I don't speak French. Non parle, non. Oh, Anglais. He placed his photograph on the top of his square. Did you need something? I think his thing keeps changing. Yeah, actually, I'm trying to figure out the layers, and I can't tell if this one... I gently traced the soil and then pretended to pinch the air to give an idea of width. Or 2. It seems reddish at the top. He grabbed his trowel, giving the vibe of a serious and no-nonsense person. Once I shuffled out of the way, he examined the area I had indicated. 2. This stratum is more red, as you said, but gradually disappears around here. He etched a small line to mark the ending. I blinked as I recognized the differences, then nodded gratefully. Thanks so much. I mean, I sort of figured, but I wasn't sure either. It's nice to get a second opinion. I gave him a cheerful smile, but he remained impassive. He even seemed baffled when I reached out to initiate a proper handshake. I'm Melissa. I'm the only foreign student here, if it wasn't obvious already with my language skills. Reluctantly, he switched the trowel to his left hand, and we gave a solid shake before letting go. Kyler, like Tyler? But like Kyle? And that was it. With nothing else to work with from his introduction, I decided to bring up his skills. I'm guessing you're aspiring to be an archaeologist? You appear to know what you're doing. He returned to his side of the square and knelt down, grabbing his photograph. Yes, this is my 4th time here, so I'm acquainted with the subject. And you? Especially since you're not from around here. Well, I'm still deciding or I'm pretty serious about it. I mean, from what I can tell, my character seems serious about it. I mean, we're new to this, but we seem like it, right? Of course, I did come all the way from California to experience this firsthand. I also love the idea of working on such an old archaeological site. I'm surprised that they assigned me to excavate a 125,000 layer. I looked upward. It did seem most students got the upper strata to work with instead. They tend to do that for the students who are interested in the subject. I'll do my best then. Can't wait this opportunity. Most students that excavate here are picked it as an elective and aren't that invested in archaeology at all. It's nice to see there are still fellow keen students coming. Since we're excavating next to each other, that makes us square mates. Or would that be care mates? Either way, I look forward to working alongside with you. He looked confused but simply gave a mechanical nod. He did muster up a small smile though. Well, right, likewise. Even his last words felt artificial, and I lost him to his little world of microstratigraphy. Blah blah blah. I can't talk. I guess he values his concentration. I mentally reminded myself to bring my earbuds for next time. I had a feeling we wouldn't be making much small talk outside of excavations. The rest of the day was pretty uneventful. It was mostly a long wait for my photograph to be approved by Sherry, and then I got hit by jet lag. Despite my worries, Sherry said she would not deduct marks if I napped until dinner, although she did scold me for forgetting my journal. Not too long ago, she said told us about that was a big deal. I scanned the tables and maneuvered to see where Sherry sat. I scooted to a spot on the bench and silently started on my meal. After a few bites, I poked at the pasta dejectedly and sighed. Now I really wish Paige was here, and we promised to do so many things together too. I glanced up hopefully at Sherry. I felt bad, but she was the only oasis in this unfamiliar place, and I clung to it. Not only that, aside from Kyler, none of the students greeted me or even tried to converse with me. I guess it was obvious that I didn't attend the same university. Will I fit in? The question was more to myself, but Sherry overheard. Worried. The students here can be reserved, but I'm sure there'll be a few brave ones who'd like to practice their English with you. They're probably too focused from the lectures and the task right now. True, I'm sure once we're all used to the routine here, I'll have more chances to mingle. I ate with gusto, feeling confident now. When I finished, Sherry glanced at my empty plate. Here, I'll take that for you. Try to get some rest. Her concern cheered me up, and I chided myself for feeling anxious when I had barely arrived. I retreated to my tent. As I settled down, contemplating about tomorrow, a musical tune disrupted the quiet night. It was quickly silenced, but I needed a catchy introduction theme to Ishtara Anywhere. I grabbed my 3DP No, I didn't leave my system on or anything. Was someone else playing? I might as well play some Ishtara. A little grinding will do me some good. I booted up the game, and the first notes of the theme song blared loudly. I had forgotten that my earbuds weren't hooked to the handheld. I slid the volume down, hoping it didn't startle anyone. The low spirits I felt earlier today melted away to the warm colors of the game. Ooh! Dawn of the third day. And let's save. And I'm enjoying a pleasant jog early in the morning. Since I don't know much about Corins, I stuck to the familiar path between the train station and the museum. When I returned, I saw people mingling in the open canopy. That meant there was enough time to eat breakfast before the trek to the cave. I swung a leg over the bench and settled into my seat. After pouring myself some apple juice, I grabbed an orange and began peeling it. Did you have a nice jog? Startled by the unfamiliar accent, I glanced upwards, greeted by a friendly face. I did. It was a short one though, since I don't want to risk getting lost just yet. I don't know the area well enough. The roads can be pretty windy too. You think you're heading east and somehow end up going north. Oh yeah, I noticed the streets aren't all clearly marked. Names are mostly on buildings. Speaking of names, I'm Melissa. Pleased to meet you. I extended an arm and he accepted my handshake. DeAndre? Enchanté. Wait, you're from around here? C'est ça. It's just, your accent sounds different in English, or the people here haven't been the friendliest. I don't know if I want to say this one. Let's just go for this one. Your accent isn't French when you speak in English. Did you learn it from somewhere? I studied abroad in New Zealand for a few years and picked up their manner of speech. Ah, cool. I'm not gonna do any accents. That makes sense. Well, it sounds lovely. It's a charming accent. Oh, New Zealand is pretty interesting. Seriously? Sweet as. I was concerned I'd be hard to understand, considering it's not my first language. Glad that's not the case. I'm grateful that you took the chance. For a while, it seems no one wanted to talk to me. I worried about somehow unapproachable. Not at all. Many people here are shy in the beginning, but they warm up quickly. We were actually intimidated by your presence at first. Aww! He's blushing. Huh? Me? We all thought you were some high school prodigy archaeologist since you had obviously flown in from another country. Do I look that young? Me? A prodigy? Oh no, I'm just a regular university student working on her anthropology major. And I don't look like a high schooler. First year? No, second year. Well, I guess technically third. You? Fourth. I've sort of fallen behind on electives, so a summer one seemed the easiest. We noticed a few students getting up and bringing their dishes to the outdoor wash area. DeAndre reached into his back pocket and pulled out a phone. He glanced at the display. Speaking of which, if we'd like to pass, we should start heading out soon. Cave or lab? Right now, I'm on dishwasher duty, but I'll be working in the lab afterwards. They're still getting around to approving people's photographs, including mine. Again, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. That's no problem. I know what it's like to be in a new country and away from your folks. Once we finished breakfast, we stood up at the same time. We momentarily gazed at each other in surprise. He was much taller than I expected, near Kyler's height. Now that I think about it, most, if not all, of the students here were easily a few inches taller than me or more. That would be me. I'm so short. I guess I'm not that short, but I'm short. DeAndre hammered a fist into his flat palm excitedly. Oh, that was the other reason why we thought you were a high school student. Hey, I'm only slightly below average height at home. DeAndre grinned in amusement. When we left the canopy, I spotted a middle-aged woman frantically asking students something in French. What's going on? Helena, the receptionist here, is looking for volunteers, but it hasn't been easy. I offered to cook all week, but it's not a one-person job. I have a partner for today, but any past that. Sherry did encourage me to participate. More like I would be marked on my helpfulness outside of archaeology too. I'll help for tomorrow. I can volunteer for tomorrow. Would you really? Sweet as, Mel. You said it again. Now I'm curious. Sweet as? Sweet as what? Oh, it's Kiwi slang for awesome, fine, or cool. Anything positive. Ah, I see. Then could you let Helena know that I'll sign up for tomorrow? Sure can do. Thanks. Woo! Okay, we're gonna stop right there. Ooh, so we met two guys. I'm pretty sure we can date. I wasn't expecting to like downgrade too much based off of looks alone, but he seemed pretty cool. But we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Anyways, that's my time for right now, and this is Caprinigh signing off. Thank you, and bye-bye!